Hey everyone, Paul SM. Welcome to part 3 of our Alpha Models 124th Aston Martin DB11 build. So we're back for the final part of this build. Today we're going to get everything put together. We're going to get all that body polish, get all the glass work in. We're going to build some PE wipers, which we'll talk about a bit more at the end. Yes, we are. And get this thing all finished. Absolutely loving this blue. I was a bit on the fence with it at first, but as I got it all polished up and seen it coming together, I was like, yeah, that's a good colour. And you'll see why at the end. It looks beautiful, it really does. So yeah, let's get on with the build and let's get started where we left off last time. Okay, we're back on the interior of the Aston Martin. So if you remember the last video, when doing the interior, I said I ordered some washers. They've arrived. I got the Tamiya accent panel liners in a light brown and a dark brown. And looking at it, I think the light brown would be the better choice on this. So I'm going to get it all in all the recessed panel lines, gaps, any areas that are simulating fabric. We're going to let it dry, wipe it off, and hopefully leave a little bit of wash behind, add a little bit of depth, a little bit of colour, and just add a little bit of interest to this pretty sterile looking interior. It's a nice interior. I think with this colour though, it just needs some depth in it, which hopefully the wash will bring out. So these are good washes. They're enamel based, so they're pretty safe to go over most paints that aren't enamel. And it's a case of give it a good shake, a really good shake. I would suggest putting a shaker ball in the bottle, and then load up your brush, wipe it off just like you would do with extra thin. And then load it up and get it to where you want it, all the panel lines, recesses, any raised areas, and then just let it dry. And as you can see, it adds a nice contrast to this colour. So we're probably going to take off 90% of this wash when we're done, but I'm just going to go around and thoroughly apply it everywhere on the interior that will hold a wash. So pretty simple to use. Like I say, pretty safe using enamels over lacquers and acrylics. If you put it over a lacquer, if you put it over an enamel paint, you have to be careful because it will eat through. But if you're quick and not too rough, you can put it over enamels. I have done it before, but you need to be very, very careful and make sure they're fully cured as well. So with the seats in the rear partial shelf done on the car, we can move on to the dashboard. And again, if it'll hold a wash, I'm just putting a wash in there. Like I said, we're going to take 90% of this back off, so it'll look a lot less stark later on. So we're going to leave that to dry for now. Meanwhile, we're going to cut off the rest of the parts needed with our Mr. Hobby razor saw. My JLC razor saw, my normal weapon of choice, I've broken the blade. Shattered it right through the middle. Absolute pain. But this is a really good saw. This is a very expensive saw as well. These are about £33 to buy. We used to sell, I don't know if we still do have them at UMP. Very expensive, but a very high quality tool. Really does fly through the resin and has a nice protective blade cover that folds over the top, like some sort of fancy flick knife kind of thing. With all the parts off and cleaned up, I've got my scalpel. I'm just getting in between all the calipers to get rid of any flash. And on the likes of the headlights and that, I'm going to remove any mounting points where they've been attached to the paw plugs. A couple of holes in the middle, they're going to hold our headlight lenses. I'm just using a cocktail stick to open those up properly and mount the part for paint. And on the calipers, we've got a little stub that sticks into the hub. It's got a little bit of excess resin on it. We're going to use that to our advantage here and use it to mount our crocodile clips. Quick test fit of the chassis plate. No detail underneath at all on this one, so we're just going to paint this black. We'll have to drill the holes and screw it in place later on. So what we're going to do first of all is get it in place, put some pilot holes in. These aren't the full width of the holes needed at the end, but if we do it now, we stand less chance of marking the paint later on once we've got it painted. So Can be a little bit of a pain these sometimes when you're drilling through into the resin body. Have a good look up above. Make sure you're not going to drill through and crack your bonnet or the boot lid. Alpha Models does usually allow a really nice depth of resin there, but still double check, don't assume at all. A few PE parts to cut off. We've got some discs, hub centers to cut off. So we've got our Zuron PE shears here. We're just going to cut them all off and then we'll clean them up, get rid of the fret mounting pieces. And if you need to, get your diamond file or whatever file you normally use for sanding your or filing your PE and clean it all up to get a nice clean edge. Now, I was looking at the Aston brakes. Some are carbon, some are steel or wherever they're made from. And I've opted to leave them the metallic colour this time. Every car we've built lately has had carbon brakes, so it makes a nice change. So I've got an 240 sanding sponge here, and I'm just scuffing it up. No particular pattern or fashion, just scuffing it up to add a little bit of wear to it. The resin wheels, quite nice these, need a little bit of clean up though. So I've got my scalpel in there, just get rid of any flash from the spokes and the outer edges of the wheel. You can see it falling off just as I'm scraping it off, just being light. Not trying to cause any damage, but just a few wisps of flash in there I want to get rid of. And the scalpel is probably the ideal tool for this because it doesn't need sanding. It literally, you could remove this with your thumbnail, but obviously my thumbnails are quite a bit bigger than those holes. So we're just going to clean up with the scalpel. Tedious job. Be careful you don't cut yourself and be careful you don't damage the wheel doing this as well. Now, fun fact about these wheels, they're handed. And I didn't notice till the end. One of my eagle-eyed Paul ISM page members spotted it and let me know after the fact they were glued in place. So pay attention, have a look. It's very subtle. It's just you can see it on the spokes where they're attached to the actual centre of the wheel. And I did not notice at all. They're staggered front and rear, but they're also handed for each side as well. So pay attention when you're doing it. Chassis, we're going to prime in Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, as we are with most of these other parts here as well. So this has been thinned about 60% with Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. We've got my Iwata HPC Plus, we're about 16 PSI. Going to put a nice light coat down to begin with, and then we'll come in with a slightly heavier coat. Now sometimes I'll use a spray can on this. If I was just spraying this part by itself, I'd whip out the spray can. But as we've got a whole abundance of parts to paint, I might as well use the airbrush. As you see, once you get that little dust coat down, you can put this on quite thick. So we've got a good coat on there, put it to one side to dry, and then move on to the discs themselves. Now I'm going to prime these in black. We're going to paint these in superfine silver. Obviously the P goes over the top, so it's not super critical the finish on these. Hence why I've left them on their pour plug, because we can hide that with the caliper later on. But we're just going to get a metallic colour down for them. So they blend in with the discs when we glue them in place. Headlights given a quick prime as well as our hubs too. Now I like to leave the hubs in because you can refer to instructions, look at the number and see which is which I did this time, and the numbers were wrong. They were the opposing side, so the one that was meant to be for the left was on the right and vice versa. And you can tell that on the rear ones because they've got the handbrake caliper locating points on there too. Going to go with red calipers on this one. So we've got some Tamiya pink primer. And then on the wheels themselves, we're going straight in with Mr. Hobby GX2 gloss black. Again, most of the wheels we've done recently have been black, either matte or gloss. So I wanted to do a metallic colour wheel on this one. And we're going to go with Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Super Stainless, one of my favourite metallic colours. So I'm going to put a nice gloss black base down. So it's a case of going around and getting a decent coat of gloss down, let it flash off for a minute or two, do the exhaust while we're waiting, come back and then put a final nice gloss coat down. Now we've got some Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Superfine Silver here. This is an old bottle of mine. Actually, it's not Superfine Silver, it's Super Iron. That's what it is. It's the older Mark 1 bottles that were a bit bigger. Just as good as the new ones, just a slightly different colour. These bottles are knocking around. I've got a good few colours in these left. So I've got 2 lots of superfine silvers. So I want to use up the old ones first. And that's my plan. So they're whizzed up with the Badger paint mixer like we're doing here. And then mixed with the rapid thinner by eye, about 50% roughly. and put a couple, 2 to 3 light coats down, building it up. Beautiful paints. I absolutely love these paints. I highly regard them as one of the best metallic paints you can get. This is a super stainless steel now, and again we're going to put a couple of coats down and just build it up slowly, probably 3-4 light coats in the end. We're going through the 0.2mm apex at about 16 psi, and like I say, it's been thinned about 50% with rapid thinner, and you can really see that colour build up. And this is a beautiful colour. It's one of my favourites. It's just a good looking silver colour. And a new paint which I tried recently on a spoon, first time using it properly in anger. We've got some of the AK Super Chrome today, and we're going to spray it on our exhaust. Now, first impressions are it's very, very similar to Molotov. You can't handle it roughly as it loses all sheen. I need to test clear coating and see what it does. But once it's dry, it is a little bit more resilient to handling than Molotov, and it's cheaper. You get twice as much. You get 60ml in the bottle for the same price you get at 30ml. So it is worth getting, in my opinion. Some painting going on there while I've been chatting away. So headlights and rear electronic brake calipers or electric brake calipers have been painted in LP5 semi-gloss. We're painting our wheels in Zero Paint Brembo red. So several coats of this, building it up until we get a nice deep red shine on there. And then we've got some Aston Martin decals to go in place. Make sure you get them the right way around. Easy to mix them up and put them on upside down. Ask me how I know, because I nearly did it there. Once you get the decal on, get the moisture out from behind it. Make sure your paints are fully cured. These have been left overnight. It is the following day now. And then some UMP Strong. I've used Hobby Design decals many times. I know Strong is the key for these. And while we're there, we'll pop in our wheel Aston Martin centres as well. Stunning colour. Absolutely beautiful colour that stainless steel is. It's one of my favourite colours for wheels. I'm going to have to paint a car on it because it's such a pretty colour. It really is one of my favourite colours. They're just beautiful paints, beautifully pigmented, laid down super flat, especially with the rapid thinner. They lay down really well. Now, we're putting the discs on here, the PE discs. The centre of the hubs were painted in Alclad burnt iron, as well as the centre PE parts to go on. So a couple of dabs of Bob Smith's glue. Already been test fitted, I already know that they all fit. And we can glue those in place. Nice to see metallic discs for once rather than carbon. So, same for the front and the rears. Generous helping of glue. Don't put too much on, you don't want all to squeeze out the sides, but you still need enough contact area to let them glue in place. But make sure you test fit everything, especially on these kits. Alpha models, Model Factory Hero, any of the resin or short run kits. Test fit everything. Trust me, it's well worth doing. That way, you know, when you come in with things like this, you've got the confidence to know it's going to fit. Now, these centre hub parts are painted in Alclad dark iron. I'm scuffing up the raised areas with an 800 customizable UMP sander, and that way it takes the paint off and leaves the photo etch metallic sheen behind, which if you look at the real hubs and discs of the car, is exactly what they are like. So an easy, simple way of doing it. As you can see, I put it on a customizable. So we get that nice burnt iron effect on the back pieces, and the raised areas are metallic. And there we go. There's the disc done. We're going to wash those later on. They'll come alive. And then these centre hubs here as well. A little bit of glue. Give a bit of a squeeze. Job done. And as I said, Tamiya black panel line wash. Put the wash on all around the centre part of the hub, and ensuring we get it all in those cross-grooved areas of the disc. We'll wipe all this off later on. It'll leave the wash in the disc, in the grooved areas, and all over the hubs as well. Decals are dried overnight again. We've got some Mr. Hobby Super Clear now. This is at the spray can, decanted, thinned with Mr. Hobby Leveling Thinner. HPC Plus at about 16 psi. Couple of light coats of the clear on first, and then a couple of heavy coats on at the end to give a nice gloss coat. And this is how I decant. Just have a straw with a little slit cut in it, popped over the end into the bottle, and then slowly decant it. Leave the lid off overnight to off gas. Don't put the lid on, it'll explode. And like I say, one last coat to get our nice glossy finish. It's a good clear coat. It will leave decals alive if you're not careful, so that's what the 2 mist coats are there for at the beginning, and you will have to put it on wet to get any decent gloss at the end. With the wash dry on the disc, we can wipe off all the excess. So with a little bit of Sansador odorless mineral spirit on a pointy cotton bud, we can remove all the wash from the disc, leaving it in all the recessed areas. And then with our hub, again, all been test fitted to make sure we've got the right ones. Look at the instructions. We can get our calipers in place. These are the front ones. So glued in with the Bob Smiths because we know we can get that back off should we wish. And a quick test fit before we commit to glue. I will hide that bare piece of resin there. We've not painted it and cut it off the pour plug in amongst the resin in a bit. And a quick test fit of the wheel and a spin. Whee! And there we go. And then we can fully assemble as we go. I think we're onto the rear ones now. No, that was the front one. This is the rear one. And so same procedure, caliper on, disc in, glued in place, and then the electronic parking brake caliper glued in place on top as well. Nice discs and calipers, look really good. These look good behind the wheels. On the tyres, we cut off the rubber moulding plugs. I have spoke to Alpha models about putting branding on their tyres, so we'll see if anything comes from it. I'd really like to see it. I think it would add to the detail. And there you go. The tyre slips over the edge. And there's all 4 of the wheels and tyres done. And now, laborious task of polishing the body. So, I've got these 3M Trizic pads, which I used on something recently. I forget now. But anyway, I've used them before. But I bought the whole range now. So we've got the 3000, 6000 and the 8000. And these are a much quicker, faster cutting polishing sponge than micromesh. Much quicker. Now, at this time, I didn't have the 8000, so I'm using 12,000 wet and dry here, as you can see, micromesh. Lo and behold, the 8000 turned up just as I finished polishing the roof. So we've used the 6000 Trizect and then the 12,000 micromesh. Then come in with the UMP compound, UMP polish, and being careful of any raised areas or edges, we're going to bring back the shine from the dulled edges of the polishing. So obviously we do get flaws in the paint. We need to get rid of those, dust spots and hairs. Also, it can be a little bit thick out the airbrush, so it's good to take it back a little bit. It does make it look a bit realistic, but these 3M pads are absolutely fantastic. Combined with our polish system, they work absolutely brilliant, and I get a beautiful shine off this thing at the end. It looks absolutely brilliant. And there we go, there's the polish now after the compound. Got nice clean cloths there for each one. Don't apply too much pressure because not going to really burn through. On kits like this, you stand the risk of breaking the resin as well. And then with a clean cloth, buffer off. I'm working one panel at a time, so I normally do the roof, the bonnet, one side, the other side, and the boot lid and bumper areas front and rear. And that way I know everywhere I've done. Look at that shine. Beautiful shine just off those. And if you need to repeat, you can repeat the whole process again if you're confident you're good enough clear. And with 2K, that's why I love 2K. It's a thick clear coat. You've got plenty to work with. And you generally don't need to be worried about sanding through. You only need to be worried about edges or raised areas. So the likes of those bonnet vents there, we need to be careful of all the edges, the wheel arches, the swage panel line in the rear wing, bumpers, anywhere like that. You just need to be super careful. So on the left hand side, my 8000 3M pads have arrived now, so we can go back. And there we go. Look how flat those 3M pads get that paint. Absolutely beautiful. So much quicker, so much easier. And after being polished up, we get all the excess polish and compound off with our old Mickey Mouse toothbrush. So yeah, I highly recommend the 3M pads. If I think on, I'll put a link in the description of the video. I got them off eBay. The 3 and the 6 were off eBay. I got 1500, 3000 grit and 6000 grit, 5 of each off eBay for £30. They're not cheap, but that is very cheap for those. They can be £8 each, some of them. You get 15 for £30. And the 8000 worked out about £15 posted for 3 because I had to get them from France. So I'll put the links in the description. Trust me, they're very, very good, very, very high quality. And what I was told was for what would take 50 swipes of micro mesh, the 3M pads will do in 10. So they're a lot more efficient. They scratch a lot less. And yeah, they'll definitely be getting regular use for me. Now, obviously, because we've polished it all, we've had compound and polish over the whole car, we're going to get a lot of it trapped in all the panel lines and the recesses of the body. So I'm using my airbrush full of water as a jet wash to jet wash out all that excess polish and compound at the panel lines. And yeah, it's quite a bit of fun this as well. So load your bit of paper up in your spray booth. For God's sake, make sure you're picking up water. So as you see, the lacquer thinners and everything else are over to the left. Water's kept to the right, because if you put lacquer thinner in that and spray it on your 2K, you're going to be repainting it. But just look at that shine. This hasn't even been properly buffed up yet or waxed. The shine is phenomenal. Those 3M pads, as well as our UMP polish system, work absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend them. And there we go. Right, so we've got some model colour black with a couple of drops of water and a nice Tamiya flat brush. And we're going to paint all the inside of the roof and door cards and the boot area. So yes, you could mask this off, but there's texture to it already. We've got some visors built in. You're never really going to see it from the outside anyway, so you might as well just brush paint it. It's quicker, it's easier, and quite often I think it's a bit of fun to get the brushes back out. It's something we don't tend to use, or I certainly don't, as much as I used to. Well, there we're going to do the wheel arches, so we get most of it infilled, and then with a nice confident stroke of the brush, we go right up to the very edge of the wheel arch itself. And again, we're using water-based paint over 2K, so it will literally wipe back off. But just be confident in your paintwork. As you see, look, just one nice clean swipe right across, and then with a moistened cotton bud, it will literally just wipe straight off, and we've got a nice neatly painted wheel well. With that done, we're going to have a quick test fit of the interior. Again, we've got all our wash off our interior now. We've wiped it off with some tissue and cotton buds with Sansador on. And you can see it highlights some of the areas. You can see those rear partial shelf is done. The dashboard, the seats. It just added a bit more depth to that interior and made it not look as sterile. So we've already test fitted this before. It's the second time we've done it now. So a few dabs of CA glue on the dashboard at the front. Get that in place and hold it in. And then put a dab underneath the front at each side. Hit it with a bit of CA kicker on a micro brush. And that'll hold that in place. And then the main section goes in, slots in at the back, and then slots in at the front. Door cards don't go in. We figured that out last time. So with one of our extension nozzles on our glue, we very carefully put some dabs of glue in the locating point at the far end, making sure we don't get any on the body or the interior. And then we drop the door card in from the side window. Very strange way of doing this. A little bit of a wiggle, and it literally drops in place like so. And there we go. Repeat that for the other side, and the job's a good one. There we are. And then just give it a little prod or push in place if needed. And then we're going to put a little bead of glue at the back there. Bit naughty here, just sprayed this on. Don't like doing that. That stuff does not agree with me at all. The kicker, it makes me feel awful. But there we go, there's our interior, just showing it all the live stream. And then wheels in. So, like I say, these are handed. I did not notice at all. The hubs are in place, and I missed the footage. I think I lost it. I think it accidentally deleted it, to be honest. But we literally just followed the instructions. They all fit only one way. Glued them in place, hit it with activator, and then all the wheels are super glued in place. They've all been test fitted, and the stance has been checked, and everything's level. Glued in place, there you go. And there we are, there's our wheels. The wheels look absolutely phenomenal, they really do. So don't get too hung up on the hubs. They only go one way. Once you've got your discs and calipers on, they'll only go one way, you can see. But please test fit everything repeatedly as you go. Big block of resin to go in the front here. It's got a radiator grill on it. So another fun story here. I just glued this in place. I had planned to put a wash on it. I test fitted it in place and couldn't get the bugger back out. So I was like, okay, you're staying in then. So I really would have liked to put a wash on it to get some depth on it. But I kind of slotted it in here. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a really good fit. And I was like, okay, it doesn't really want to come out. Okay, it can stay in. So that's fine. Now, I've got a drill bit here. I can't remember the size. I think it's about 1.6. I've offered it up to the screws to make sure it's about the right width. With resin, you want the drill hole just to be ever so slightly smaller than the screw. You don't want any pressure on that resin because you stand it cracking. So I've measured up against it just so the screws are ever so slightly smaller, bigger than the drill bit. And that way it'll still get purchased and screw everything in place without putting the excess stress on the resin. So we got our under tray in, prop our screw in place, drop it on the table, get it in place again, grab our screwdriver and just nice and gently screw it in place. If you get any massive resistance, it means you haven't drilled enough, or you might have a build up of resin dust in there. If you get any resistance, back it out, clear it out, maybe re-drill it. But if you've drilled it to the right size like I have here, you'll have no problems at all. These screws are much nicer than the wood screws. They did also come with the kit. You can see them on the bench just above my knuckles. These little black machine self-tappers, I suppose they are, were much nicer and looked a lot better. Not as cumbersome as the wood screws, and being black, didn't need painting or anything. So yeah, massive improvements over the wood screws. And there we go, it's out in place. And now we've got a grill. Now, Mr. Harford, who'll be watching this, called me a certain word in the review because I said I was going to use the resin one. So he set a challenge to use all this PE to build up the front grill. So I did. So there we go. So we're going to clean it all off. We're not going to linger around because it took quite a while to build. But we're going to get all the parts off one by one as the instructions call for. And assemble it step by step so we don't lose track of the parts. So it's a case of cutting the parts up, a little dab of Bob Smith's glue, putting the opposing pieces on like so. And then on the bottom piece, I just wanted to get the main structure built first and then we could build around it. We put a few more dabs of glue. And then lift it up and get the entirety of the piece there. And that is the main body we can then add to. And then we just go through the instructions, cutting off the relevant pieces of PE, making sure they're assembled right, gluing them in place, making sure everything's straight, angled correctly. And to be honest, it was pretty easy to do. It really wasn't that difficult at all. A little bit tedious. The live stream was a little bit sweary at one point. I can't remember what I did, but I know it was a little bit sweary at one point. It's probably me dropping those bits there. But as long as you follow the instructions and you're careful, don't go mad with the CA glue, but if you do, you can always use acetone on a cotton bud to get it back off because it's not a painted part. We're going to leave it bare metal. But just follow the instructions, keep the right part, keep everything straight, and it'll go together just fine. And there you go. There it is, almost complete, looking really good. So I'm just angling it, make sure it's all straight, it's not skew width, it's all symmetrical. And then a quick test fit into the body. And yeah, it test fits really well. Almost friction fits itself in there. So that's very good. So rear lights. Clean these up with a 400 thinny stick. They've been cut off the sprue. Well, sawn off the sprue. Clean them up with a 400 thinny stick. And then we're going to get 240 thinny sponge to clean the rest of it up. And then we'll hit it with the buffer to get it to a nice shine. Now, I recently bought a whole load of Tamiya enamels for this. I think I missed me painting it. I think I've had a few corrupt bits of footage here I've lost that I know I did. So I bought Tamiya enamels, so they were all painted in Tamiya clear red. These are the exhaust surrounds for the back of the car. So it's brass PE. You get these little moulding blocks for each side that mould the shape to the required profile. Pretty cool. A bit overkill, to be honest, because I more than likely could have bent this by hand. Just it's a very subtle bend, as you can see. I probably could have done that by eye, but anyway. To be fair to alpha models, once it's bent, it fits in like a glove. It really does fit in perfect. So, nice touch. Like I say, it's a little bit overkill, but it works very, very well. So they'll be painted in black as well as a load of the other parts. Like I say, we did all the clear parts in X27 clear enamel red. Dries super fast as well, really quick. And then I'm going to paint the back of it in X11 chrome silver enamel paint as well for the reflector. So I've had these enamel paints before. They are very, very high quality, typical Tamiya paints. I had the whole range, sold them on. And for quite some time now, I've been thinking these would be ideal for brush painting. Enamels are very hard to be for brush painting. They are perfect because of the right thickness, good pigment content, etc. So I thought I'd grab a few colours. I grabbed a load of primary colours and metallics, and you'll see them in use in future builds. So we've got the front grills, the bonnet grills, and those rear exhaust surrounds here. Stuck some double-sided tape, well, masking tape. We're just going to prime them up in Mr. Surface of 1500 black. We're going to leave them like that. We're not going to paint them. It's a perfect colour for grills. So a couple of light coats. Don't go too heavy, especially where the masking tape is. Otherwise, it will infill it. Now, the kit did come with some PE to go behind the lights. It was a pain in the backside and actually damaged some of the paint when I was test fitting it. Hence why I painted the back of the lights in silver instead. We've got some gluing glaze in here as well. PVA based glue from Deluxe Materials. We're going to push everything in, get it seated fully home, and using a moist cotton bud and a cloth, get rid of any excess glue. And that's our lighting. But yeah, very nice clear paints. The enamel paints are lovely. Highly recommended. I got those from Super-Hobby UK, which is in Poland, funnily enough. They're reasonably priced. Good postage as well. Those rear exhaust surrounds are glued in place with Deluxe Materials as well. And our chrome exhausts are popped in with Deluxe Materials gluing glaze as well. Now, I've seen a few of these built with the exhausts were put on sideways. I'm not sure which way they're supposed to go. I like them like this, so I'll pop them in like this. This is just to my eye the way they go. So some gluing glaze there in place. Headlights, again, we did get some PE trim to go in there, but I thought, you know what? The enamel's going to look so much nicer, and I think it does, to be honest. Like I say, the coverage is phenomenal of the enamels. Very, very finely pigmented as well. So they look really good. And they brush paint absolutely fantastic. So I got about 8 to 10 primary colours. 8 primary colours, a semi-gloss black, and the 2 clears, orange and red. And I grabbed 5 metallic colours as well. So may add to the range as I go, but I've got all I need for now for detailing interiors, brush painting, lights and things like that. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll probably add some more to the arsenal of paints later on. Just installing the headlight inserts into the headlights here. They are handed, so make sure you're getting the correct way round. They've got a drop of Bob Smiths on each one, and then just a quick test fit of the headlights to go in place, and then some glue and glaze in there as well. Probably a bit too much, but anyway, there's plenty in there. Pop it in. Like I said, the enamels dry super quick as well, especially with a bit of heat applied. I found they dried really quick. And then we've got the headlights themselves made out of resin. The one on the left hand side as you look now did sit a little bit prouder than the one on the right. I thought it was a flaw in the headlights around itself or what it was, but this one we're doing now fitted in a lot better. But hey ho, it is what it is. And the headlights are being held in place with some Bob Smith's gold no fogging foam safe glue. So it's a case of getting in place, hold it for a few seconds until it's in, and then leave it be. Make sure you don't get any glue everywhere, and then we're going to pop our metallic Aston Martin badges in place like so. Really nice these are. Very, very high quality decals. So get it in place and then push it down with a cotton bud. but they are absolutely lovely, as is this Aston Martin badge. So this is an actual decal sticker. The Aston Martin badges themselves, the wings, are an actual decal. This is an actual metallic sticker. I got this in place, centralized, perfectly, straight, first time round, no issue. And then while wiping the body over with a cloth, ripped off half the letters. So I had a spare one, put that on wonky, ruined it. Putting the mirrors in the mirrors here as well. Stole 2 more out of a different Aston Martin Alpha model kit I've got, put them on wonky. So I need to get some spare ones, and we'll fix that at a later date and then replenish the ones I stole out of the kit. So the moral of the story is, when you're polishing your body, be very, very careful of parts you put on that are delicate, because I just couldn't get it straight. Don't know what it was. We've got one of the PE number plates, which I like to stick on these cars as is, with some double-sided tape on the back. Here, I only ever put the rear plates on, never put the front ones on. And then while I was at it, something that was mentioned by one of you viewers a while back was, can I use double-sided tape to put these windows in? These are the bane of these kits, these windows. Gluing them with CA glue is very, very risky for the paintwork, for the glass. So I've been wondering for a while whether to do it or not, and I thought, you know what? Let's give it a shot. So I'm going around the entirety of the window with the double-sided tape we use for our belts normally. Just trimming it with the PE pliers, burnishing it down. Completely missed me getting the front screen in. Like I say, I've lost some footage along the way here. I'm not sure what's happened. So we do exactly the same for the back. Peel off all the backing tape. A little tip on the windows. Make a little handle out of masking tape like this. Fold it over so you got a little tab. That way you don't get any fingerprints on the back of it, because you can hold it this side round only, which is the side that gets stuck down, like so. And yeah, the masking tape, the double-sided tape worked really well. So get it in place, line it up. Once you're happy it's lined up, just get it all burnished down with a cotton bud. Much safer and much quicker and easier than using CA glue. Sadly though, we had to use CA glue on the side windows because you'd see the clear tape through the window otherwise, but on recommendation of Alan Parker, I got some mobile phone screen adhesive, which is basically black double-sided tape like this, 1mm diameter, or width rather, and next time we'll be able to use that on the side because it'll blend in with the black painted part we've already got. So we put some Bob Smiths on the side here, and we're doing it the hard way now. We've got to line everything up. So on these windows, you have to line it up so that the front mirrors fit in place. So get it in place, burnish it down, hold it until it goes. You have to hold the back in a bit, and then get your mirror, which I hadn't cut off its mounting point, but I do very quickly there. There we go, leaving a little stub behind. And while I'm holding it, it's just a quick test fit of this mirror. Fits absolutely perfect, no issue at all. There we go. And now wipers. Now, PE wipers, I have an in-depth guide on building these, about 10 minutes long, on my Patreon for supporters. If you want to see this, you become a patron down below, and I'll show you how I built the wipers on these. Yes, I know it's going to ruffle a few feathers. I've shown these in previous videos before. I've made an in-depth video with close-up footage like that, showing how they're made. If you'd like to see it, it's part of being a patron now, it's exclusive videos. So yes, I know a few people aren't going to like that, but it's just the way it is. You're going to get in-depth videos and some exclusive video builds now being a patron. And once they're built and painted, we just add a dab of glue and then they go. So there's a 10-minute video covering this a little bit more depth over on my Patreon. Link to my patrons in the link down below. So if you want to support me, help with the videos and get early access to the videos, you get 2-week early access, exclusive video builds, which will be an Alpha Models Porsche 964 RWB, and exclusive how-to videos. Select the appropriate tier and you can watch those exclusive videos yourself. I've explained in my last video, the RWB Porsche review, the reasons for doing it. So if you've got any questions, go watch that first. And if you need any more info, come and ask me. But yes, so if you like to see an in-depth video, you get the option to. If you don't, you can go back and look at some of my previous Alpha model builds where I do show the wipers being built, just not as in-depth. So with the wipers in place, the final touches is a quick wax over. So we've got some of the ultimate spray wax now on a nice clean cloth, and we are very, very carefully, or maybe not so carefully as you'll see in a minute, going to go around and lightly get a nice coat of this spray wax all over the body. Let it haze off, and then we can buffer off to a nice high shine. Unfortunately, somewhere along the way, I go and knock the window wiper I've not long put on, and you'll see it on the bench in a second, because I'm a bit of an idiot, and it seems to be what I do best. So we'll glue that back on off camera. The PE wipers can be a nightmare. I don't mind building them at all. I used to hate it, but I don't mind it now. Gluing them in place is an absolute nightmare. I'm a big fan of our spray wax. It's much easier than the actual wipe on, wipe off wax. And it gives just as good a finish in my opinion. So you just go around, buff it all on, spray it onto the cloth, buff it on, and then get a nice clean cloth and give it a good buff up later on. Be very careful. You can put it on the clear parts if you want. But just look at that shine. It's a beautiful colour. Beautiful car. There's the wiper under my hand. There it is on the bench, you can see it there. But there we go, other than the wiper not being in place, there's the car finished. It's turned out really well, very happy with this one. Beautiful blue paint, absolutely love that Braemar blue. It's a good looking car. I'm glad I did that PE grille as well. Nice paint job, not completely flawless. I'm openly admit that some of my paint jobs have flaws in them. But beautiful colour, beautiful stance on the car. That contrasting interior looks really good as well. And I've got some nice pictures of it here too. So, lovely kit. The interior is a bit uninspiring, I will admit. Didn't enjoy that as much. But beautiful car, lovely kit that went together with no real dramas at all. And just a lovely, lovely build. So this was primed in Tamiya Grey Primer. Gravity Braemar Blue. Aston Martin colour was sprayed on. We give it a black panel line wash. We've 2K'd it in Gravity 2K Clear. Wheels were done in stainless steel super metallic. Calipers Brembo Zero Paints red. We carbon fibered it with some Tamiya carbon fibre, which is very subtle on this as well, quite hard to see. Interior is done with a mix of Zero Paints interior colours. We've added some accent here and there. Added a few artistic touches of my own here and there. All the painting was done with my Iwata HPC Plus, my Iwata Revolution, and my Ultimate Apex airbrush. And we used the 3M Trizec pads to sand it all back at the end, and the Ultimate Modern Products polish system to give it that nice high shine. Great kit. I really enjoy these Alpha Models kit. They're always a fun build, and yeah, and they're just a very, very satisfying build. Right then, there we are. So very happy how that turned out. That blue is just beautiful. I picked that kind of on a whim when I was picking some colours from Gravity. I actually picked Aston Martin Midnight Blue first, and then saw that. And I'll not very often buy two colours of the same because they're both dark blues, but I'm glad I did because it's such a nice colour. When you get it under backlighting, like LED lights with no major light source, it darkens up so much. And then once you get it under a bright light source, the metallic flakes bring it alive and make it that beautiful blue. So very happy I chose that colour. Revolution working great on that 2K. Works even better on the Porsche, which is over there, nearly finished now as well, the GT2. Yeah, that technique of mixing the last final coat of 2K and the different airbrush, I think, has made a difference to the 2K. I think it's made it a little bit easier to work with. We've got a good finish to start with, and those 3M Trizec pads are cutting through that paint so quick and smoothly. Once we get the ultimate polishing system on there, it thins it right out. I don't think it looks as thick, and just getting a super shine off it, which we can only improve on as we go over time. But very happy with that. As I said all along, the interior on this was a little bit uninspiring, but I think the colour combo with the body went well. The wheels look great, the red calipers look good, and yeah, happy with that build. Came out well. Sits in there nice. Sits there next to the GTX. Running out of room in there, so some of those are going to go on to Etsy for sale, I think. That is a plan to do, because I've got room for probably 4 more 24 scale cars, and that's it. It's full again. Because there's about 78 cars in there built. So I'm going to have to get rid of some. Here we go. So, as I say, if you want to become a patron, it's down below. There's a Buy Me a Coffee and a PayPal link if you want to support me that way as well. Links down below to everything ISM related and me related. The forum, Facebook, UMP Retail, my Paul ISM modelling page, my scale mates, an email address. Get in touch with me if you want to have a chat. There's also links to Off Air Hangout group. They'll have the bench page. All sorts is down there. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Click the bell notifications to get notified of all the latest videos. Make sure you sub to the channel and leave me a comment. I love reading all the feedback and comments from you guys and the patrons as well. I'd love to hear from you guys too. And if you got this far on the video, fair play to you for listening to me waffling on again. Trust me, you won't hear me mention this anymore about reasons for doing it. I'm just going to do what I do in future without explaining myself. I just thought if I do it now, no one can ever say I didn't explain my reasons. There we go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that build. I'll be back with the next Alpha Models kit. I'll show you it. It's this, which is the 964 RWB. It says Porsche, but it's Porsche. And that's a patron exclusive build. I'm going to do that in Porsche Amethyst Purple. There's a review of that on ISM, which you can watch for free. And that's going to be the next build alongside the Chevelle, which is a public video and a continuation of the Model Fatty Hero Lancia. There we go. Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.